What kind of security guarantees would Ukraine trust moving forward if we do want to achieve long-term peace?
Well, this is one of the thorniest issues of this whole situation, because you'll recall the European leaders, in response to President Trump pushing them very hard to spend more on their own defenses, to spend more on helping Ukraine, and to shoulder much more of the burden on Ukraine. And that's absolutely right. I think President Trump did achieve something in that regard that no other president, and I watched many of them, very, very angry with their European counterparts. I had NATO jobs as a 1, 3, and 4 star general while I was also dual hatted as a U.S. commander. So I spent a fair amount of time at NATO in the defense ministerials and so forth. And our defense ministers, our presidents repeatedly went after the Europeans for not achieving the 2% of GDP on defense that they had agreed to spend at the Wales summit well over a decade ago. This now is going to happen. In fact, now it's going to be 3.5% of GDP on defense, on actual defense expenditures, and then another 1.5% on infrastructure spending that supports the operationalization of the new NATO Supreme Allied Commander's defensive concept, because you literally have to move much further east from where the forces were back in the days of the Cold War, needless to say. So he has achieved something very significant there. That is great. But when the Prime Minister of the UK and the President of France got together with other a coalition of the willing, the important NATO countries in Europe, they really never came up with what could be seen as a rock solid security guarantee. In my view, in fact, the only way you would have a rock solid guarantee would be if they put their forces with Ukrainian forces on the ground on the front lines, so that if Russia breaks the ceasefire and commences additional offensive operations in Ukraine, that they will be engaged in that. They'll shed blood as well, and then you can see how they would then have to respond. That's just not realistic, though. The U.S. does have the ability, with its long-range fires and other capabilities, and you just saw that demonstrated, of course, in the extraordinary attack on the Iranian nuclear program. That really was the final element of that 12-day war prosecuted by Israel, and did so much damage to the Iranian nuclear program, to its security elements, the leaders, the scientists, and so forth. So the U.S. has that capability. The question is, could we make a commitment that would be seen as rock solid, on which the Ukrainians could depend to ensure that if Russia were to violate a ceasefire, which most of us think they will do, what they want to do is improve their position on the ground. They'd like to be given these fortress cities, that territory, in return for a ceasefire. But just as with what they did after 2014, when they seized the initial parts of southeastern Ukraine and Crimea, that they would then just stock back up, retrain, reequip, refit, and then have another go at it to see how much farther they could get.